Hello, my name is Jenny Spate and this is my Sport Development in Action presentation on my placement. So, in this presentation I will look at what I completed on my placement with South Ribble School Sport and as well as the Mini Movers strategy, alongside what strategies we worked towards, the difference we made on the children and how it benefited the wider community. So in my previous presentation I explained that during my placement I would be working in St Bede's Primary School looking to develop fundamental movement skills with a 6-week programme to help the pupils and alongside South Ribble School Sports with any other projects they needed me to do. So this is a brief overview of what I was expecting at my placement. So on arrival the head teacher asked me if I'd take part in the Mini Movers, which is a Thursday morning. My fundamental movement skills were on a Friday morning, and also I attended some teacher consultations, helped out in class a few times and generally got to work in the school quite frequently over 6 weeks. So that is my 6-week plan that I went through, which looked at all the different aspects of fundamental movement skills. So just to recap, placement I was working for was South Ribble School Sports. So the South Ribble School Sports are a non-profit sport organisation that work alongside government strategies such as School Sports Premium and Sport England. The aims are to improve health in children and decrease obesity, provide knowledge on healthy active lifestyle, to improve fundamental movement skills from a young age, to provide high quality PE per week in over 50 schools in South Ribble, create competitive opportunities in inter-school competition, develop future workforce, train school teachers, students and leaders. So following on from this, I highlighted some of the relevant strategies and organisations linked in with South Ribble School Sports. So for example, the first one is Sporting Future, a new strategy for an active nation, which their outcomes focus on physical well-being, mental well-being, individual development, social and community development and economic development, alongside making the UK's overall sports sector stronger and broader. They say that they want to see healthy, happy, active children becoming healthy, happy, active adults, and the talented primary school children of today becoming our sporting stars of the future. So this strategy also links in with the organisation Sport England and their strategies, Sport England school games and primary school sport. So the school game strategy is funded by the National Lottery. They put £150 million investment into primary school PE. So this is linked with South Ribble School Sports as they encourage a lot of level 1 and level 2 inter-school competition and encourage competition within different schools as well. So the primary school sport is linked through the Department of Education. So the government is investing £150 million per year to primary schools in the form of primary PE and Sport Premium Fund. The PE and Sport Premium is designed to help primary schools improve the quality of PE and sport activities they offer their pupils. Sport England aim to for all pupils leaving primary school to be physically literate with the knowledge, skills and motivation necessary to equip them for a healthy lifestyle and lifelong participation in physical activity and sport. Further into the presentation I will explain how the work I completed on my placement helped these organisations and strategies to reach their aims and targets, and how it developed the wider community. So, on my placement. So, once introduced to the staff members I would be working with, Mrs Plant, the head teacher, asked me if I would take part in the Mini Movers, which wasn't originally planned but was extra for my to gain more hours. So I worked along Lynn Murray on a Thursday morning, who also works for South Ribble School Sports. Therefore, during my time on my placement, I worked with Lynn with 10 children in each year group, so that's year 1 and reception, who struggled with physical activity, concentration during class, or who were particularly inactive during school and at home. The scheme was a 10-week course. Each week would focus on a different topic. So after 5 weeks, Lynn gave the pupils things to take home to practice with their parents to help continue development outside of school. This was extremely beneficial for the children, and they thoroughly enjoyed the scheme and clearly progressed their physical capabilities. I enjoyed working alongside someone who was focused solely on development as their career and learnt a lot of different techniques to deal with children who were usually disruptive or demotivated during PE lessons and in school. So alongside this, I got to run my own fundamental session on a Friday for the receptions. I planned a 6-week programme to follow during the time there, to which I expected to develop further and move on to harder exercises afterwards. Not only this, I gave the teacher all my plans, which I've previously shown you, and she took notes and during my lessons and made sure she took down all my ideas so she could use in her PE lessons as well. So both me and my mentor, Kevin Lockham, decided it would be beneficial for the kids to have as much PE as they could during their week, which is why I went twice a week alongside Lynn as well. So I mainly focus on health, fundamental movement skills, getting them active, and just generally being physical. All of these factors were specific to the goals of South Ribble School Sport, and my mentor felt the time there would really help the pupils develop and improve the general health and fundamental movement skills. So, week 1. So my first day in the school was simply to give me a chance to get to know the pupils and the teachers. So I arrived at 12 and I stayed for the remainder of the day. I got to sit in the reception class with Mrs Derbyshire. I went around each student asking for their names and what sort of games they liked playing, so it gave me an idea of what their interests were and what I could incorporate into my lessons. I did this so I could adapt my plans, so the children who are usually inactive have a set role during the session, so I could give them something to do if they're not usually motivated. This links in with the sport and education theme, as I'm taking into consideration the needs of the pupils, what will work best for them and how they will benefit most from my development programme. Not only this, I outlined to the teacher that what I was aiming to do was educate them on fundamental movements and how they will be performing at the age they are now and how they need to progress to reach their standards. This should benefit them in everyday life if done correctly throughout the 6 weeks. PE for Life 2007 says that for some children, physical education in school is the only form of exercise they will get in their life and highlights the importance of physical activity on mental health. PE for Life 2007 also says that there's a scientific evidence of sound mind in a sound body, as well as a distinct relationship between academic achievement and physical fitness. In addition to this, activities such as fundamental skills can help improve and promote a healthy, active lifestyle from a young age, which also fits in with the South Ribble School Sports goals, as well as the government's a new strategy for sport. So, the first mini movers session was mainly for me to help Lynn running the event and setting out equipment and getting to know the children a little bit more. She explained to the children who were involved that we were going to be committed to her programme for 10 weeks for fun and to learn new games, but also to progress and improve general abilities they should have by the ages of 5 and 6. The sessions were split into approximately an hour and 30 minutes depending on the children and how focused they were. The activities focused on ways of travelling and incorporated some hand-eye coordination. They began very basic, as it was clear that the children struggled with the activities due to lack of practice, which for me was quite surprising because by that age I know I was capable of the activities Lynn was running. One pupil in particular refused to take part and was extremely shy. I had a discussion with him about why he didn't take part, and he said he prefers making things than running around. To get him involved, I suggested we made patterns when travelling, and he seemed to really like that idea and took part for the rest of the session. I set myself the challenge to make him confident by the end of the course and willingly take part in all aspects of PE. This aspect of my placement links in with sport and health, as the children are getting a form of exercise which they may not outside of school. Tom Porowski, McCulloch and Pesk 2015 suggests that physical activity improves cognitive development, mental stimulation and provides movement-based learning experiences that build the body and mind of children aged 3 to 12. This should assist with Sport England's aims to set them up with lifelong physical activity and healthy lifestyles when leaving primary school. The Friday session involved me running my first session single-handedly. This was a challenge but very beneficial for my confidence and knowledge on how to adapt sessions for each children and to be inclusive at all times. Leading on from Lynn's session, I focused on different forms of movement using animals as a way to make it fun and exciting. This meant they got to practice hopping, skipping, jumping, stomping, sprinting and many more freestyle movements. This was guaranteed to get the children moving and working all their different muscle groups. The majority of the children coped relatively well with what I asked them. Some of them struggled listening to the instructions and were slightly disruptive. When speaking to the teacher, this was down to lack of authority when outside of school. Therefore, by encouraging them to listen and respect their leaders, this would link in with sport, community and crime, as this could set up the children up for life to learn their rights from wrong. Parker 2014 suggests that if teachers and authority figures in sport can provide a safe and controlled environment for kids from a young age, bad behaviour leading to an unproductive, violent future can be prevented and also reduced. Therefore, I made sure in all of the sessions that there was a substantial amount of discipline, but also made a comfortable environment for all the children to feel safe and enjoy what they were taking part in. By helping to prevent future problems, this links in with the Positive Together funding strategy, which helps children in areas of high risk of crime into sport to keep them off the streets. By continuing the work I was doing on my placement, this would further encourage the kids from a young age to start up clubs and be involved in positive activities. So what went well? Encouraging inactive children to take part, mixture of activities and differentiation for different abilities, something that I could improve on. So help Lynn make suggestions to improve sessions and help further to improve pupils' techniques. So week 2, the mini movers focus on different forms of ball handling this week, such as bouncing, rolling, throwing and catching. Although a full session was planned, progressing on to hard activities, the children were struggling incredibly to catch the ball after each form of handling. The hand-eye coordination needed to be focused on and developed a lot before progression was added. Lynn asked the teacher if they could try and encourage ball games during playtime to help with this process. I suggested that the children may find it easier if they use a larger ball rather than a tennis ball, and this made the session run a lot smoother as they completed the drills more accurately. Developing hand-eye coordination may result in better reaction time as well as enhanced agility and athleticism, says Mercer 2010. Therefore, it was important that we focus on this further on in the course, as well as considering the other health benefits sport can bring. By developing this aspect of physical activity, it may give the kids a chance to discover a new talent and possibly open up options to joining new sports and games. This links in with a new strategy for an active nation, as it encourages people from a young age to develop new skills, try new sports and possibly excel and become successful in them. My session of the week on Friday looked at throwing, fielding and aiming of the ball. The session was basic and the drills were simple, as both age groups seemed to lack in throwing capabilities, which showed a large area of improvement for the teachers to focus on during their other PE lessons in school. This was beneficial for me because I could really see the children developing their technique and listening to what I had to say, which helps towards my mentors and my aimings of improving fundamental movement skills in children in schools. I explained to the children that it was important they worked on their throwing, catching and use of space, so when they were older they could be involved in invasion games such as football and netball. By encouraging kids from a young age to develop skill and hopefully in turn create kids who are competing and competitive in games, this would help Sport England's school games, as it would generate more children interested in intra-school competition and possibly produce children with higher levels of talent more frequently. It is known that competition is part of every culture, and since education should transmit culture, it is necessary to incorporate competition into education to help children get used to it in later life, says Fernhoff 1997. This links with the theme of sports and education, as it shows sports development programmes considering the wider importance of competition on education and how sport can do that. So what went well? Progression of activities for those who have a higher ability, and I've noticed improvements for myself, provided things to practice at home for further development and areas to work on. So week 3. This week, both myself and Lynn ran our sessions on the Fridays. We felt the children needed to continue to do a bit more work with the balls, just to see if they grasped the technique and to keep their memories refreshed. We split the 2 year groups into 4 groups and gave them an hour each, which was valuable time to give them to help with their development. During this time, we also managed to move on to bouncing and rolling of the ball, and more of how to stand and where to throw to, which meant their ability level in throwing was slowly improving. By doing a similar session, this will help encourage more consistent technique and a larger likelihood of long-term development. This also links in with sports and education as it's taken into consideration the needs of the pupils and what they will remember from the session. So what went well? Excitable session with lots of different activities and further development games. Improvements. On some occasions the session could have incorporated more complex movements and some more variation. So week 4. Mini movers move on from throwing and catching the ball to controlling the ball with their feet, such as kicking, dribbling and passing. This also incorporated aiming and spatial awareness as they had to aim their kicks for targets as well as their other teammates. This session was extremely useful for developing coordination as well as balance, general technique and looking at something slightly more complex. Lynn also made it essential that the children were communicating at all times and vocal throughout the session to each other, such as encouragement, shouting their names and helping each other out when necessary. She said this was to get them to work together to achieve the same goals and to do well, and by doing this they seemed to enjoy the session a lot more and get a lot out of it. Therefore, not only do mini movers look to develop physical aspects, it also looks to improve more social aspects and how the children are interacting with each other during sport. By developing things such as this at a young age, it will help them develop their teamwork skills and sportsmanship. This is a technique sports development programs such as the mini movers can do to help reduce antisocial behaviour in communities. If children are used to being social with each other and communicating appropriately in school and in clubs, then this will reflect in their behaviour outside and within their home environment. This is very closely linked with sports and community safety, as it may also encourage budding athletes and sportsmen and women to join teams and therefore stay out of mischief on the streets. Teenage Kicks is a document by Hilarious Sport for Good Foundation that looks at the value of sport in tackling crime youth crime in the UK. It focuses on strategies that provide sports for kids to help reduce crime rates. Youth crime and antisocial behaviour are common in the UK. 1 in 5 young people reports being involved in crime and antisocial behaviour, and there are around 75,000 new entrants into the youth justice system every year. The results of the study clearly demonstrate that sport is not only a successful mechanism, it is also a cost-effective way to tackle the problem of youth crime and gang violence. Moving on from this, my Friday session was slightly different this week, as my mentor felt it needed to do something away from using balls. Therefore, I focused on developing agility, coordination and balance. I had them moving in and out and around of obstacles, doing different ways of travelling, moving objects around the space in different ways and matching up colours. It was a tiring session with lots of running about, but the kids definitely met the objectives. It was probably the most physically demanding session in terms of fitness, which is beneficial and also links in with sport and health, as it gives the children and teachers a way to have fun but also work on their overall fitness. So what went well? Provided interesting activities that children could easily do at home, worked on mental development as well as physical, and some improvements. Some of the activities were very physically demanding, which meant the children sometimes weren't enjoying the sessions as much due to fatigue. So week 5. This week Lynn changed her session so it was more individual movements and sequences. It was similar to dancing but was aiming to get children to use muscles they wouldn't normally use. They found it extremely exciting and loved doing the different movements. The session looked at mobilising all the different joints, stretching, holding, balancing, slow and quick movements and some rhythmic patterns as well. It was an engaging session and each child made the most of it. It was great to take away, and I would definitely use it in the future for a session of my own. Lynn gave the children home at this session, which was to practice throwing and catching and the different movements practiced during the session. According to Silton 2016, dance is a great activity to develop children cognitively and physically and should be practiced and encouraged throughout their childhood. Therefore, by encouraging similar activities in school, this may encourage the children to sign up to dance clubs and classes outside of school, which in turn helps the community's fitness levels and in turn produces healthy, active lifestyles. My session this week solely looked at balancing. I felt that the children needed to develop this further and could do with more practice. I included obstacles when balancing objects on backs and body parts to add some differentiation to the activities. some struggled but eventually got there in the end. Balance is an important component of the curriculum that needs to be developed in and outside of school, as it is used in everyday life and assists with posture and core strength. Working on simple balance in schools can lead to progressing into successful dancers, gymnasts and performers. Therefore, it may possibly trigger new talent and interests. This links in with a sporting future strategy, as they are looking for healthy, happy children developing into healthy, happy adults, which is what my work and the Mini Movers is looking to achieve. So what went well? I provided sessions that was different to normal, fun and imaginative, took into consideration the needs of the pupils and what they needed to work on. Improvements, balancing could have been made more exciting, as children sometimes lost concentration after a while. So finally, week 6. This was my final week at St Bees due to starting a Healthy Schools project with the university, and also due to assignments and exams clashing with the placement. Therefore, me and Lynn decided to split the class into 4 groups again and focus on simple invasion games that the children could take part in. We mainly focused on throwing and catching to continue developing those movements, but the children really enjoyed a sense of competition and all got stuck in. I found this session very valuable, and I could see the confidence in some of the children had changed, and their abilities were also improving drastically. So what went well? I could see that confidence was improved when working with the balls. There was great communication and enthusiasm between teammates, and some small tactical developments were showing through, so the children started saying like, go over there, get over there. Improvements, incorporate different types of invasion games to give a bit of variety. So here's some mentor and staff feedback that I received. So from the reception teacher, Janet Derbyshire, she said that Jenny provided enjoyable, educational and exciting sessions each week that develop each aspect of the fundamental movement skills and help each child progress and learn new things, which I found extremely kind of her to say, and I was really chuffed with everything that she said to me, and I feel like she took away a lot of what I taught her. So not only did I help the children, I also helped the teacher as well. And my mentor said that Jenny worked incredibly hard and delivered fantastic sessions. Her work made the school interested in further help from South Ribble School Sports, and they look forward to working with me again in the future. So overall, I felt my time at St Bees was extremely beneficial for both myself and the students. I learnt a lot from Lynn, who works for South Ribble School Sports, and I will hopefully get the opportunity to work with her again at some point in the future. The feedback I received from both Year 1 and reception teacher was very positive, as I've just shown you, with very few points to work on. Therefore, I've also helped South Ribble School Sports reach their goals of educating teachers and staff, as well as increase PE in schools and make kids more active more often during their time at school, and hopefully spark some interest as well. Throughout the 6 weeks, I completed approximately 32 hours, including meetings with mentors, and hopefully I've also given myself an opportunity to work in the school again. Just briefly, I've highlighted some of the social and community benefits, such as reduced crime, better health in the children, education improved on activities, and the benefits of sport. Also that the children can now work better in a team, closer to their friends, and know how to communicate more appropriately, and also worked on improved listening and communication skills between the classmates. And so that is the end of my presentation. This is my list of references that I've used throughout my presentation. Thank you very much.